Let's go ahead and look at our supplies for our project. So our finished earrings are laying here, but what we're going to need first off is 6 inches or so of Swarovski chain. I'm going to use green because that was what was used in our sample. We're going to need at least 4 of the little chain ends that go with this size chain. We're going to be patinaing the ends and the chain, so I've got some silver black here. It's a patinating agent. You're going to want to keep a little bit of water. I've got 2 different containers. You'll see why in a little bit on hand, and we're going to need some baking soda to neutralize it. You're also going to want to have some paper towels for that. As far as wire for the actual earrings, we're going to use some 20 gauge antique brass and some 24 gauge antique brass. As far as tools, we're going to be doing our wire working with some round nose pliers and some chain nose pliers. You're also going to need some cutters because we do need to cut our wire. And we need to do a little bit of hardening on our earring form, so you're going to need a hammer and a block and what's called a loop mandrel to do our shaping around. Okay folks, so to do our patina, I've got my little glasses of water. One just has a little bit in it because that's what our patina is going to go in. We can water it down just a tad. There we go. You'll see it's got a slightly yellow tint. So all we've got to do is just take our chain. It's just going to patina the metal, so we can just dunk the whole thing. It won't hurt the crystal. And I've just got an older pair of tweezers. You probably don't want to use your nice chain nose pliers to get this stuff out of the patina because it's going to turn the tips black. But you'll just let it sit in there a little bit. And you can kind of tell it's getting blacker in there. And actually, it looks like you might already be done. So I'm just going to pull it out, and this one just has water. So we're just going to throw them in there to rinse the patina off. The patina can be a little corrosive, so you want to avoid trying to get it, getting it on your clothes. It's not going to immediately burn a hole in your finger or anything like that, but try to avoid getting it on your skin. And then once we're done with it, this is just a little bit of baking soda. We're going to neutralize it. And you'll see it's going to fizz. So you're just going to keep adding baking soda until it stops fizzing. And once it's stopped being fizzy, you've neutralized it, and then it's okay to just pour it down the sink. And now these guys are all rinsed off. You're just going to pull them out and dry them off. And you can see it's got a nice black finish on it now. So we'll go ahead and pull these pieces out and we'll get ready to assemble our earring. I was just going to show you how to put the chain end on one of our pieces. We've cut our 6-inch piece in half so that we have 2 3-inch pieces. It's nicely patinaed. And we're only going to go ahead and finish one end of the chain to start with. We want to get our earring wrapped first to make sure we don't need to trim some off the other end. So we don't want to go ahead and attach both sides, but this is what the little end looks like. And it's got a little loop on it. So we've got something to attach with, and the very last link on one edge of your chain is just going to fit right in there. And then we're going to take our chain nose pliers and fold the little tab down on either side. Just like that. So now it's not going to come out of there. And we've got a little 3-inch section with an end on it. So we just want both of them prepped this way, and we can start forming the hoops. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and make the hoop part, so this shape right here that our chain is wrapped to, we're going to start with that. So we're going to use our 20 gauge wire, and you want to cut about 6 inches. We're probably not going to need quite that much, but then you'll have plenty to work with. Get it a little straighter. And we're going to start at one edge with our round nose pliers. And actually, you'll see there's kind of a sharp tip there. I'm going to take my cutters, and if you turn your cutters with the flat side against what you're cutting, it'll give you a little bit more of a flush cut. So see, now that's not quite so scary and pointy looking. And we're ready to start one edge of our hoop. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and just starting from the edge, I'm going to curl until it touches. And it's not centered, but that's okay because we're going to start forming the hoop this way. So you just want a little loop like that. And this is where our loop mandrel comes in, the big steel tool. And you're going to pick a size for your hoop. You really can't make them too big, except, unless you just don't like gigantic earrings. But you can make them too small. If you make them too small, your chain won't be able to make the curve on the hoop. So I've just picked what I think is a good circumference, and I'm going to bring it around. And what you can do for consistency is after you pick a size, you could put a little piece of masking tape right here so you know where to start on your second one. But we're going to pull that off, and that looks like a good sized hoop shape. And you'll notice on the finished earring, we've got maybe a 1/2 inch gap between the first loop and the second one. So what I'm going to do is take my chain nose pliers, and across from the first loop we did, I'm just going to stand this up to prepare to make the second half of the hoop, or the second side. We're not going to make the loop yet. We're going to wait until we get the chain wrapped on here, because we're going to have to fit our little chain end over it, and it's going to be kind of hard to do if we've already made the loop. So once you get to this point, we're ready to start hardening our hoop so it'll stay, and then we can wrap our chain on. So to harden our hoop, you're going to need a bench block, and you can just kind of hang on to that little part that sticks off. And I'm using a chasing hammer. You could really use a mallet or any other little jewelry hammer that you have. The chasing hammer is going to flatten it a little bit and give you some texture, which is kind of nice. If you don't want any texture, you can do a mallet, which will harden it without giving it any texture. We're just going to hammer, and I apologize, it's going to shake the camera. And it's good to hammer on both sides. If you do all your hammering on one side of the piece, it's going to start warping in that direction. But you'll notice after you've started hammering that it kind of stiffens the hoop up, gives it a little more substance. And that's what we want, because we want it to keep its shape once we start doing our wrapping. So that is looking pretty good. And I think we're ready to go on and wrap our chain on.